That's 2 more minutes.
We'll call this meeting of the Board of Commissioners to order. Ask Commissioner Schaefer to lead us in the flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank everyone for being here. I'd like to remind everyone this is a public meeting. It is being recorded, both audio and by minutes of the meeting and by video. So you've got 3 ways to be on the public record. Just be advised that you are. Are there any awards or recognition today?
No.
Seeing none, we'll move into, we do have some minutes to acknowledge.
January 23rd, 2009. I move for adoption.
Second.
Moved and seconded to adopt the minutes. Discussion. Those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Are there any additions or to the agenda?
No.
No additions. This is the time in the meeting if there's anyone here who wishes to address the commissioners on any matter that is not on the agenda, that isn't already scheduled for discussion. If you have an item to bring to the board, this is the time to do so. Is there anyone here who wishes to address the Board of Commissioners? Seeing none, we'll move on into our business agenda today. The first item on the agenda is a public hearing on Tamarack Road. And at this time, I'll call the hearing to order. I'll ask, are there any abstentions, any bias, conflict of interest, declaration of ex parte contact, any objections to jurisdiction? Seeing none, I do need to advise you the agenda identifies the applicable substantive criteria for evaluating the request. Staff will review these criteria. All testimony and evidence must be directed toward these criteria. Failure to raise an issue with sufficient detail to afford the parties an opportunity to respond to the issue precludes appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals based on that issue. A call for staff report.
Good morning. Matt Kenny, Umatilla County Public Works Department. So as you know, we received a petition to vacate portions of public road. One is known as Tamarack Avenue, the other is unnamed. It's just outside the city of Hermiston, east of 10th Street, south of Newport, and north of Highland. We've prepared a short report for the board's review, which will outline description of ownership, property uses, assessment of public interest, along with some photos and some correspondence that we've received. So I'll get into that now. Description of ownership. Property proposed to be vacated consists of varying underlying ownership and will be described as Property A and Property B. And if we could please scroll down to past the petition down to our first page of the report. A little further, one more page, right there. And then if you could just kind of focus in on that exhibit, that'd be great. Perfect. So Property A is outlined in red, as you can see. This lies within 4N 2812C Tax Lot 806. It's owned by Nancy Lynn Joines, who is a petitioner. The public access was dedicated on Partition Plat 1994-30 and consisted of a 20-foot access and utility easement on the west side of the said property and a 30-foot access and utility easement on the south side of said property. These right-of-way dedications were never formally accepted by the county governing body, and therefore the proposal is to vacate any and all interest the public may have in this property. If vacated, the property would revert back to the owner. Property B, as shown in pink, is a small sliver of a 30-foot road and utility easement. This particular easement was dedicated by Umatilla County. The property was originally obtained by the county via default taxes in 1974 and was eventually dedicated as a public road in 2005. The petition proposed to vacate only that portion of this public right-of-way abutting the northerly property line of 4N 2812C Tax Lot 704, and that's the Marilyn Gilliland parcel, and she's also a petitioner. The remainder of that 30-foot road and utility easement will remain unchanged. Current property uses. It's used by adjoining landowners for pasture and or yard space primarily. The property has never been used as public right-of-way. Longtime fence lines remain on the property, on the original property lines, and much vegetation growth consisting of blackberries and various tree species blankets portion of the property. Assessment of public interest. The subject property has never been used for public access and utility purposes again. Given the physical condition of the right-of-way, it would be an expensive endeavor to improve to current road standards. That portion of the property running east-west dead ends to the east at a point where former public right-of-way was also vacated in 2010. And as you can see there, that's the portion highlighted in blue. That was all vacated in 2010. The Maxwell Canal runs northeasterly through this area, creating a situation where public roads in cardinal directions are not practicable. The current layout of adjoining and surrounding land would not benefit from the public property as currently exists. Portions of this proposed vacation may be beneficial to the city of Hermiston as growth forces development to expand. So the Umatilla County Public Works finds the vacation to be in the public interest, pending consideration of public comment and the consideration by the County Planning Department and City of Hermiston Planning Department, which I've got some correspondence from the city, which I'll get into here in a minute. But to follow, if we scroll down a little bit further, I'd like to go into some photos just so you guys can see the current conditions of the property that's proposed to be vacated here. We'll just kind of go through these one by one really quickly. This is looking north at what would be the extension of 11th Street towards Newport Avenue. That portion on the east side that's shown in red, the 20-foot proposed vacation, that's a piece that's proposed to be vacated. Anything shown in red is going to be vacated or proposed to be vacated. Anything shown in green is existing and shall remain as public access. So continue down. This is directly over that 20-foot strip looking north. This is on the north side near Newport and 11th intersection looking back south. This would be back at the intersection of Tamarack and the unnamed north-south portion looking east. And you can see the 30-foot access to remain in green, and the proposed, that's actually an error, that's a 30-foot strip on the north side. The red text should be 30 feet. Proposed to be vacated there, looking east. And this is, again, looking east, walking down that same line. This is standing near the Gilliland Joins property line, looking west. And this shows that portion, the 30-foot portion on the south side that was obtained by the county, and then the portion on the north side that was dedicated in the partition plat. Both those are proposed to be vacated here. And that's continuing westerly, just looking down that same line. And again, towards the southwest corner of the Joins property. So that kind of does it for the visual aid. I've got a few pieces of correspondence I'd like to read over that I received emails, and I'm just going to read directly from those emails. This one was from Ken and Myrtle Thompson. They're property owners that live on 1225 East Newport Avenue in Hermiston, and they had 5 concerns. Number 1, there appears to be a commercial cell or TV relay tower and adjoining private property users both north and east that adjoin Tamarack Avenue that would be harmed by vacating this easement. We looked into that, and I think there was a little bit of a discrepancy on the location, what they were considering the easement location here, and we didn't find that to be a valid assessment.
So that won't be impacted then? Is that what you mean? Right,
yeah, because there's still public access that'll be existing, whether this vacation is executed or not. And so I don't know if the concern was that there may be utility lines, running through these easements, which we found no indication that there is. But even if there were, there's still that public right-of-way in East Tamarack and the north-south portion that will still exist. It'll get them to Newport Avenue if needed, if that makes sense. Number 2, I and other pedestrians, including school children, regularly use this portion of East Tamarack Avenue to access East Newport Avenue and other portions of Highland subdivision off East Main Street. Highland Hills Elementary School is located just 1 block south of Tamarack Avenue on 10th Street and generates considerable pedestrian traffic in this area. We found that to be a valid concern. Again, I would go back to the comment that there still will be public right-of-way existing, so we're not, I mean, the proposal will not cut off public access. Number 3, should the county property that adjoins Tamarack Avenue to the north and east be annexed to the city of Hermiston and or otherwise be developed, the vacated easement would likely have to be reestablished. That could happen in the near future since those parties already adjoin city property. And that kind of goes hand in hand with what the city had said, which I'll get into. Again, the legality of the 1994 partition plat dedication is kind of what concerns us. The fact that it was never formally accepted by the public body, so I don't know how that would, if it were ever to be constructed and used, that might have to be considered. Number 4, it appears the petitioner's current property owner on East Tamarack, and their intention relates to potential or current illegal activity that they believe would be prevented by vacating this easement. We would not agree with this assessment, nor do we believe that the potential benefit to the petitioner exceeds public cost of vacating the easement. Number 5, an East Tamarack property owner has recently made a practice of creating traffic barriers on the easement by digging small ditches across the easement and piling yard waste in the easement, apparently to discourage traffic. We do not believe this practice is appropriate and should be discouraged. Thank you for the opportunity to comment. Ken and Myrtle Thompson. The next correspondence was from Clint Spencer on March 7th. He's the City of Hermiston planner. And these comments from Clint go hand in hand with what our own Bob Walter has portrayed. He kind of agrees with Clint's comments. And it goes as follows. The City of Hermiston does not support the proposed vacation of 20 feet of Southeast 11th Street south of East Newport Avenue. All of this land is within the city's urban growth boundary and adjacent to city limits. Southeast 11th Street currently extends in a fully developed manner to the northerly terminus of the area proposed for vacation. It is logical to assume that Southeast 11th Street will continue to extend southerward if and when tax lots 308 and 806 annex to city and develop. At this time development occurs, improvements of Southeast 11th Street to city standards will be required to the developer. 50 feet of right-of-way is needed to comply with the city development standards for installation of paving and sidewalk and construction of utilities. If the 20 feet is vacated at this time as proposed, as a condition of any development on tax lot 806, the city will require dedication of right-of-way and proportional installation of utilities and street improvements along the property frontage. Please refer to the attached GIS map, which he provided. And he continues on down the email. The same situation exists along the proposed vacation for East Tamarack Avenue. Eventual annexation to the city will require dedication and improvement of East Tamarack Avenue to city standards. However, in the case of East Tamarack, it is likely that the street will terminate at a cul-de-sac near its current eastern terminus, as canals make further easterly extension impractical. I followed up with Clint regarding this email just the other day, just to get some clarification on specifically that last paragraph, and he did reiterate that they're mostly concerned with that north-south portion of 11th Street extension. They would like to retain that if at all possible. They're not overly concerned with the east-west portion. Was his overall opinion. So that pretty much does it for what I have, unless you have any questions for me.
Are there any residences on that property?
The portion that you see in red, that's on the Joins property, and there is no residence. The residence is actually hundreds of feet east. It's quite a large parcel, and it's, like I said, it's used for horse pasture and yard space. East Tamarack, there are no residents that access their properties from that public right of way. They all access from the road to the south, which I can't recall the name of it, but everyone's public access would be preserved regardless in either scenario.
That portion in blue has been vacated, you said?
Yeah, it was vacated in 2010. And I believe that went all the way down to Highland, if I remember right.
I have no questions.
Thank you. This time we'll call for anyone who wishes to speak in favor. Any proponents of this request? Anybody who wishes to speak in favor? And please identify your name and where you live.
My name is Nancy Lynn Joins. I'm okay. I'm kind of short. Huh? Nancy Lynn Joins. I own the property that we're speaking of, and I'm the one that petitioned and went around and talked to everybody about getting it vacated. So basically, I do rent the pasture out for cattle during the summer months. I have a renter that's rented from me for about 5 years. And then my residence is on the other side, up on a different parcel. That's just my farm ground, basically. And I'm kind of interested in putting in maybe a barn or a loafing shed or something for the animals. But so basically, I'm just, I guess, trying to clean it up in a way. And I do understand futuristic situations too, but my main concern is just to kind of clean that up so that I don't have to put my barn and everything right out in the middle of something. And I did visit with Clint too, and so we kind of visited about that, kind of getting rid of it because there's a canal there that he says there's probably no way they'd ever improve that because of having the canal being in the way of it. So basically, and the one, Myrtle and Ken, they were mixed up of where the land was and what it was involved. They thought it was further down towards 10th, that part where there's, was it what it'd be due south, right? Yeah, south, that part, and they thought it was that street. And so when I visited with them, they said, oh, we didn't realize that's what it was, because they just saw the sign posted there. So it basically has really nothing to do with where they thought it was. Okay, thank you.
A question. Currently, the right-of-way there is fenced. Are you utilizing the right-of-way currently?
Yes, I have cattle and horses in there. I raise and train horses, and then I rent the pasture out during the summer months for cattle.
So that full area is currently available to you currently?
Yes.
To be utilized for
See,
pasture?
See that white line that's, well, there's the red dash, and then all of the white line is my fence line, where my animals are. And then clear on up to the driveway.
I'm looking at the south easement there, that one right there.
Right, that's
fenced along the white line in the middle.
Yeah.
So you're using that for pasture currently?
Right, that's all inside my farm ground, or my pasture land, yeah.
And on the west side, on the other end there,
That's been vacated,
is it
That
also
green?
fenced?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's all.
So the entire
enclosed.
plot as it sits right now is being utilized?
Yes. It's it's basically 10.2 acres, but there's a parcel of 2 acres that my house and barn sit on, and then the 7.2 acres is all fenced. All that kind of angles off down there. You might see the way the land kind of lays down towards, keep going east, past the vacated part. Yeah, down in there. That's all fenced in. That's all part of one piece.
And where is your home?
Well, you can't see it, but if you headed due east in the upper corner, keep going.
It's not on this parcel?
No.
Okay.
That's just farm ground. But my house is on a 2-acre parcel that's in the corner up there, and then my barn's across.
Yeah.
So it's kind of weird, but but it works. Thank you so much.
Any other questions? Is that you?
That's not me.
You sure it isn't me?
No, I would hear yours. Okay. All right, is there anyone here who is in opposition to this proposal? If you'd like to speak. Yes, please. And identify your name and address, please.
My name is Marty Hopkins. My wife and I own the property
directly west of this parcel here.
To the west? To the left?
Yeah. Right there. Yeah. And it's essentially a half a city block. Unfortunately, what these pictures don't show is that Newport, from Newport, the very top of the picture there, from there over is a thriving subdivision, and it's beautiful. Very nice subdivision. On both sides of this property, within about 2 or 3, 4, maybe 4 blocks, are 2 elementary schools. If it was possible to back up this parcel of property that she has, I mean, it's a beautiful piece of property, but as you can tell by looking at just the lines, the city of Hermiston at some point initiated the thought of making those actual streets. When I bought my property on the west side of this here, our intention was to essentially at some point develop that into housing. Being between an elementary school and a junior high, it made perfect sense. Obviously, financially, we haven't been able to do that yet. We hope to one day. If this proposal goes through, it'll turn essentially, I'm not sure what street that is now, if it even has a name, but they'll turn that street into an alley. I mean, sure, it has access to it, but it's just going to be one way, I guess one direction. It's a nice area, nice. In the future, it's going to be, and I'd like to see it develop as a community. At this point, it looks like they're going to basically take half the streets. I'm not really sure why, because obviously there's plenty of room there already to graze horses. Another 20 feet in either direction isn't going to hurt a horse or a cow or anybody else that matter. But it will in the future eliminate any possibility of having to old-fashioned street sidewalks. And in my opinion, sidewalks and streets are what makes neighborhoods. So I guess I'm saying no. Negative, nay.
Questions?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So what we just heard is consistent with what the city of Hermiston planner said.
I believe it is.
Is that correct?
Yeah, that was his main intent for that north-south portion. That's what he portrayed, the 20 foot on the west side of the moving parcel. And he wasn't, per our conversation, he wasn't overly concerned with the east-west portion.
The Tamarack.
Yeah.
Just the north-south, the
Right.
one we just heard about. Okay.
And then just to reiterate the fact that, and I don't know, it may be more of a question for Doug, how that dedication and non-acceptance by the public body would work for, future improvements. I'm not sure. I just thought, just kind of for your information, just would like you to be aware of that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think probably what you could do to rectify that is actually accept it. If you want to, we could accept it right away now, at some point, if that becomes necessary.
Okay, are there other questions? Then there is an opportunity for the proponent, if you have some response to the objection, you have an opportunity to speak now. Come back to the...
I must have a thing with those chairs. Yes, thank you. Is that okay? I can understand his concern. In the future, I realize there's growth, constant growth and everything like that. So I have spoken with the city, and he and I, or Clint and I, did speak about the fact that, and Matt alluded to that too, that is such the Maxwell Canal is there, that one south that we're talking about. The northeast is plausible that they would maybe need to do that, and when we spoke, it would have to be just either rededicated or whatever as improvements came. But there is a future plan in maybe the next, I don't know how many years, because we don't know how fast we're going to grow, but I have a plot plan that I've spoken with Clint about too. And that's how we kind of all came about this, to clean that all up to where it would flow in the event of future improvements. So I do understand the issue. They call them skinny streets because I asked him, I said,
I'm
what
sorry,
is,
say that again.
I say they call them skinny streets. You know, the smaller, not a full 60-foot easement street. Like the 11th Street right now, that right there, if it were improved, and I think that's what he was speaking of, it would be called a skinny street, as there is one along Newport at present. So I just, I don't know, Matt, should I show him the parcel thing? I don't. This is a proposed later on futuristic parcel, so it wouldn't be totally an abandoned piece of ground. It's just going to be a scraggly piece of ground in the middle of future development.
I think that's, is that right side up or is that upside down?
It's upside down.
Well, yeah. I always have my north and south mixed up. So anyway, so this is just, but basically my futuristic plans in a way, this is too congested for what I'm trying to do because, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Do you need me to be? So in the urban growth that we have, there's no place in the city of Hermiston for high-end homes, like a 3/4 acre to a half-acre parcels. And most of those people that are coming into the area are going to Tri-Cities and building their high-end homes in that area. So this was a proposal that I'd made a lot of years ago for future, but I have another one that I went to Clint with, and he said he liked the idea, but and then it came up about vacating that the southern thing, because it's kind of it's not going to be conducive to creating the environment that we want for higher end homes, like 4,000 square foot homes on an acre and a half to half an acre to 3/4 of an acre. So all these lots would actually just be doubled in size instead of so it wouldn't be quite so congested. So there is a futuristic plan not to just have a piece of scab farm ground in the middle of things.
Have you seen that plan, sir?
Well, it's mainly in the future, yeah. And you can look at it if you want. But anyway, so it's not, I understand future growth and what is, but basically that 20 foot off of the 11th Street would probably have to be rededicated as it goes. But the plan that I'm proposing is a kind of it wouldn't be gated, but it would be a higher end, kind of a sweeping street through there to where there isn't a lot of traffic all the way around it. More just to create just a place where we can bring those people with the higher end homes. They have no place really, not very many places in Hermiston to build those type of homes. I've talked to many builders and they say yes, it would be desirable to have those kind of lots available for them if the need arises. Okay, thank you.
What are the elementary schools that are there, or the schools?
Off to the west
Yeah.
and a block
Highland Hills, right?
just south of East Juniper.
There's Highland Hills Elementary, and then Highland Hills Elementary, and then middle school is down off of Diagonal. Yeah, Sandstone
Yeah.
is down off Diagonal.
Sandstone
This
is
is
up.
that whole development, this, what, right here, this is that whole development that's right by Highland Hills,
Yes,
along there.
that's that new development that runs on out to Townsend,
There's
what you're looking
okay.
at.
Okay. Oh, wow.
So, okay.
Understand now.
At this time, are there any requests for continuance or keeping the record open?
Something, hang on, is this one right here?
Excuse me?
Am I allowed to ask a question?
You can ask a question, yes. As- You've had your opportunity to speak in opposition, so
I'm sorry?
I say you've had your opportunity to speak in opposition, so this would be to clarify.
Okay, I'm not sure if I'm clarifying or not, so I'll take a risk here. At the position where the proposed for a larger subdivision she wants to build is, it's right in the middle of a very nice average family home neighborhood. 3-bedroom,
We're not speaking to that at this point, to that proposal of the future development
Right.
plot plan.
Okay, I guess I'll rest then. Thank you.
Okay.
Is this the Hopkins residence?
I don't know if they live there or they just own.
Okay, we'll close the hearing at this point. And,
I have a question.
okay.
I'm looking, there's two plots there. One is the one you referenced, Mr. Hopkins, adjoining 11th, right?
To the west of 11th.
That's your piece.
And then there's another piece that borders on, do you have it, John?
Yeah.
What's that street? I know it.
Well, that's 11th, that must be 10th.
Right below that. Got it.
What street runs in front of Highland Hills?
10th.
So, is this your residence on 10th? You, is that your property on 10th?
Basically, he has this property right here.
No, I'm sorry. Sir, no. On 10th, no.
See that one right there?
Half the block. I'm not sure the lady's name that owns it, but it is owned by another person.
This piece here
Kathleen Hartley.
is his. Somebody else owns that.
Somebody else owns that? Okay.
He's like right here.
See right here?
I guess we could if we really wanted to.
Okay. Further questions?
Kathleen Hart.
Mr. Chairman, from an assessment standpoint, can I make a comment or not?
Yes. I'm sorry, I skipped over comments from
No, that's fine.
Agencies.
Just observation, is there an option in the midst of this discussion to just do the north-south, or leave the
I
north-south?
was going to ask that question in
East-west?
our deliberation.
Because from a valuation standpoint, if there is some future consideration of development of the north-south on the west side of that, those costs certainly play into the potential cost of a subdivision development.
And that's a question, Doug, if we felt we were in favor of vacating Tamarack and not the piece on 11th, how would we proceed?
You can just do that. You can break it apart.
Break
if
it
you want
apart? Okay. Further comments? We'll close the hearing then and discuss. Discussion? Looking at it and knowing the direction of development out there, just what I asked Doug would be something that I would be in favor of not abandoning the easement on 11th, but granting the vacation on Tamarack. City of Hermiston said that they didn't anticipate building that out. Is that correct?
They didn't say it that directly.
It'd be expensive and difficult.
Yeah, it was not as much of a priority as it would be the north-south portion of 11th. Is kind of how I understood it.
And currently, I don't see any diminishment in use because it's currently being used as contiguous property. But since the request is before us, comments?
I forget what we're doing with the green.
That's already been done.
That's already vacated.
Okay.
That's vacated. So you can't punch through to that other street there.
Well, part of that is, can I comment? It had to go over a canal and everything, the same thing that Clint alluded to. The canal's just, it's not conducive because of the canal.
That's why it was vacated. Okay. Do we have a motion, since we have no discussion?
I would make a motion to just vacate the piece on Tamarack. That's what you were talking
Yes.
about, right?
Second.
Moved and seconded to vacate East Tamarack where indicated there on the map, but not to vacate on East 11th. Correct?
Correct.
And there was a second to that?
Right.
And is there further discussion? Seeing, hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Tamarack will be vacated, 11th will not.
Okay.
Okay, moving on to the next item on the agenda today. And thank you all for being here and participating. Next item. Doug, are you presenting that, or?
Or I think Paul is.
Request for post-PERS employment.
Thank you. Paul Chalmers, Director of Assessment and Taxation for Umatilla County. We currently were retaining Terry Shelley as a post-PERS employee to help with training. We have 3 individuals that are in a training mode. The good news is they are scheduled to take their certification test now March 27th in Salem. But we would like to maintain, because of the cross-training and training, we're behind schedule as far as getting tags done and such. And Terry Shelley is willing to stay through the end of the fiscal year and help with that backlog, because when those folks are not certified, they cannot sign off on their own work. So we've had kind of a downswing as far as production and getting those folks up to speed, and would just like to continue her employment through June 30th. And then at that point in time, she will retire completely.
It's been fun watching her in action with those three people. I would so move.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve. Further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion
I
carries.
think we ought to thank her for doing that, her willingness to do it, because it's been really an interesting experience.
Yeah, she's
Watching
been a
that.
wonderful resource. So thank you.
Thank you, Paul. The next item on the agenda is an appointment to the Wolf Depredation Advisory Committee.
This is coming before the board to update the county representative on the Wolf Depredation Advisory Committee. The proposal is to have Commissioner Schaefer fill the vacancy.
Do you have a wolf call?
No.
Is there a motion?
So move.
Move to adopt order BCC 2019-013, and I'll second that. Further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is a parking lot payable.
Oh,
Nope, wait a minute, do we skip one?
Did I miss one? Oh, Columbia Development, excuse me. Next item on the agenda is the appointment of representation on the Columbia Development Authority. And that relates to the Columbia Development Authority is the authority that is working to have the depot come back to civilian use. And I have served on that committee. There's a request that we have an alternate on that committee as well. So this order would appoint me as the member of the committee, and would appoint Gail Nelson as the alternate.
So moved.
I want to interview her. Second.
Put her under the light.
Yeah.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Now you can do your payable.
Now we have the parking lot.
Going through my email there, and then all of a sudden, whoa. Good morning, Commissioners. Dan Lanai with Administrative Services. The payable for the parking lot was a little bit more than we anticipated, and we didn't realize that until we got into the parking lot. As originally, it was going to cost us a couple $1,000s to just get the gravel to put in there. Then we were going to have to rent the excavating equipment and have my guys come in and demo it. And for about $2,500 more, the company that was going to bring the gravel in could go ahead and demo it for us. So that's what the one payable is on there. The for the $4,000 and let's see, what is it? It's the $4,900 payable there. But the other two were basically unanticipated, because once they removed the cement off the top, there wasn't actually any base rock put underneath it. And so basically that's the reason why that parking lot over there was so broken up. It was just mud. It was completely a soupy, muddy mess in there. And they had to come in and bring in, once it was off, we had just a muddy mess there. So they had to bring in a bunch of larger base rock to fill it in, and then they had to bring in more gravel than we anticipated because of the, it wasn't properly in. I don't know when they built this, the 30s or 40s when the building went in for the dealership here, but they didn't have the same infrastructure that we would put in to build a road or a parking lot today, and so that's part of the reason it failed, and it was so broken up. But they have placed that in there, and so it is above and beyond what we anticipated, our total cost there.
Questions?
You'll see on here where, and I met with Dan and expressed some concern that we've got to really be careful about too many cost overruns, but I did sign off on it. But we've already had that conversation.
Is there any way it could have been anticipated?
Not until we tore into it, to be honest. Once that came up, we didn't have a clue that it was that bad underneath there. So, and at the same time, my staff was so busy with dealing with the roof and moving things around that we just needed to get it done.
We've had some remarkable unforeseen events.
Yes.
A few, yes.
Well, that's an understatement.
Okay, further discussion? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Move to pay? Seconded. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Dan. Next item is yours also.
The snow removal cost over another thing that we did not anticipate, that we were going to have 5 weeks of constant snow here. I mean, we're approaching into week 6 in a sense of having snow. My staff is busy trying to keep the sidewalks clear so people don't slip and fall and get injured, to prevent liability. We contracted with the landscape, I can't remember what their vegetation management company to grade. Kind of sounds funny, but I guess this is what they do in the winter months to make money, is grading the parking lots. So we contracted with them to do all of our different parking lots and allowed my staff time to basically, when it was snowing, and it was snowing all day, to work all day removing snow and keeping the sidewalks clear. They did not have time to clear them, and it was a needed expense to try to keep the sidewalk or the parking lots as clear as we could. And they were doing these at the juvenile facility, out at the jail, the criminal justice facility there, Sam Cook, Stafford Hansel, and the courthouse parking lot here, and the health department over here.
What did you have budgeted for this?
Normally, it's just something we assume or
Internal.
do into our budget, because it's usually maybe $1,000 or so, because we might have it has to be a significant snowfall before we call the guys up to do it. If it's only an inch or two, it's not really an issue. So last year there was nothing. The year before that was a big year on that. So, and then several years before that, we didn't have anything again on that. So,
Do you have any plans to hook up the heating out front?
that will be this spring when we get to that. Yes, it's just a matter of time of getting everything done in the plumbing, but that's one of our goals to do this summer, is to get the sidewalk, so the front and the back sidewalk will be heated on that. But
So if we can get through the next 8 years without any expense, we'll come out even.
Yeah, there you go.
I would like to point out, Dan, that I think your guys did a really good job of clearing the sidewalks, and I really appreciate it. I know they worked very hard at it, and I, for one, appreciate it. So,
Was a major challenge this year.
yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion?
So
I'm
moved.
wondering about heating parking space 3. I'll move for payment.
I thought we would gravel it. It's been moved and seconded to authorize the payment to Vegetation Solutions, $8,687.50. Those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. Next item is BOPTA.
Up to just need the commissioners to sign off that they approve of the orders that the BOPTA committee has put in place.
And there was a large number this year.
Yeah. It was a little larger, but mainly most of them were from one petitioner. 40 some of them came from a mobile home park and so in a sense, if there wasn't that one, we would have had a low year. But since there was just that one petitioner had so many of them, that's what made it a little higher this year.
But there were some adjustments.
Yes, there was about six. There's it's less than $50,000 there of adjustments.
Okay. And we have before us BCC 2019-15. Move to approve.
Second.
Seconded. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
All right. Thank you, Commissioners.
Next item on our agenda is the Shelco Electric payable.
This is coming before the board because of the dollar amount. The payable is for improvements that were made and changes that were made to the EOTech site during fair. The amount of payment has been reimbursed by the city of Hermiston.
It has been reimbursed?
Yes, it has.
Okay,
Money
so
has been received.
It's an in and out?
Yes.
Move for adoption.
Second.
Moved and seconded to adopt, to pay the $7,433.50 to Shelco Electric. Those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. Okay, next item on our agenda is a payable to the Eastern Oregon Alcohol Foundation.
And this is also coming before the board because of the dollar amount. The Community Corrections has historically paid some funds to EOF for the detoxification program. The one proposed for this year was $7,500 and is before the board for approval.
Any questions?
Robert, did you have a question on this, or was it something previous?
I had a comment on the Shelco bill. Actually, the $7,400 is just a portion of what they billed us, and I'm not quite sure what the fair plans to do with the balance of that, but there is a significant remaining balance on that bill.
And will it also be reimbursed?
I've heard varying information.
I'm looking at the bill, $74,3350. It looks like the invoice total was $10,500. Is that the number you had in mind?
I thought it was 18,000. I saw
Yeah,
somewhere.
I believe the total that Shelco billed.
The line goes through the 8, makes it look like a zero. Okay, 18,570. So the 7433 was what then?
That was a portion, I believe, that the city of Hermiston felt they were responsible for. So they paid the fair, and then the fair's paying that. I think they're still in discussion about what to do with the rest of it.
Okay.
What does in discussion mean?
Negotiation?
I think it means that they're trying to decide who's responsible.
We'll allow them to continue to negotiate that. Hopefully they will. I know there has there has been discussion at a fair board meeting that I attended about who owed what and how to break that out. And my point to the fair board was that yes, in the past this was all kind of one action. If they needed something done, they went out and did it. But now we are tenants at that property, and the landlord is responsible for certain things to be done, and they need to be, that bridge needs to be crossed in the time when they're doing it to discuss that. So they're quite aware, and I'll be interested in how this one works out.
I'd be interested if the improvements are specific to the fair or generally enjoyed by people utilizing the facility.
Yes.
Part of the remainder dealt with the security building, and it has been billed to the sheriff's department. So I don't know how big that is.
Well, that's no longer our building, is it?
Yes, that is still county.
Still ours?
Yes.
It is. We still have authority over it.
Do we have free access?
Yes.
Really?
Yes. It's been reserved in the lease.
And nobody else uses it?
No.
Thank you for that additional information. Let's get back to our Eastern Oregon Alcohol Foundation.
Well, I know historically, Community Corrections has paid $7,500 annually to Eastern Oregon Alcoholism Foundation. I don't know who's presenting on that, but I'd make a motion that we approve that.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We have before us payables to the watersheds that we have annually done. Doug, do you have that?
Yes, this is coming before the board because of the dollar amounts. The county has budgeted $10,000 payments to each of the three, the Umatilla Basin Watershed Council, the Walla Walla Basin Watershed Council, and the Soil and Water Conservation District. These have historically been done for the last 5 years or more, and so this is coming before the board again for this year's payment.
So moved.
Moved to authorize payment, and it's been seconded. Those in favor of $10,000 each to the Umatilla Basin Watershed Council, Walla Walla Basin Watershed Council, and the Umatilla County Soil and Water Conservation District, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Our next item are supplemental budgets, and these will involve a public hearing. So I'll call that hearing to order. Call for a staff report.
Morning, Commissioners. Robert Paul, CFO. Have 6 supplemental budgets and I believe two transfers of appropriations for you this morning. So we'll talk about supplemental budgets first. Budget Order 2019-55, General Fund Building Maintenance Program. The Building Maintenance Program requires a supplemental budget to appropriate funding not known at the adoption of the budget. This requires an increase in local revenue of $175,000, an increase in personnel services of $75,000, and an increase in materials and services of $100,000. Budget Order 2019-56, Developmental Disabilities. The Developmental Disabilities Program requires a supplemental budget to appropriate funding not known at the adoption of the budget. This requires an increase in capital outlay of $175,000 and a decrease to their contingency of $175,000. Budget Order 2019-57, County School Program, requires a supplemental budget to appropriate funding not known at the adoption of the budget. This requires an increase in local revenue of $12,000, an increase in materials and services of $6,000, and an increase to contingency of $6,000. Budget Order 2019-58, CARE Program, requires a supplemental budget to appropriate funding not known at the adoption of the budget. This requires an increase in capital outlay of $18,000 and a decrease in contingency of $18,000. And Budget Order 2019-59, Court Security, requires a supplemental budget to appropriate funding not known at the adoption of the budget. This requires an increase in state revenue of $45,000, an increase in transfers in of $35,000, an increase in personnel services of $30,000, and an increase in capital outlay of $50,000. And Budget Order 2019-61, Developmental Disabilities, requires a supplemental budget to appropriate funding not known at the adoption of the budget. This requires an increase in beginning cash of $477,000, an increase in materials and services of $281,000, and an increase in contingency of $196,000. Those are the supplemental budgets before you.
Any questions of Robert?
No.
Thank you. We will call, is there anyone additional who wishes to speak in favor? I see a full crowd out here. Anyone who wishes to speak opposed? We will close our hearing and deliberate. Who wishes to?
I move the adoption of Budget Order 2019-55.
Second.
Moved and seconded to adopt 2019-55. Further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Move the adoption of Budget Order 2019-56.
Second.
Moved seconded to Budget Order 2019-56. Any further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Move the adoption of Budget Order number 2019-57.
Second.
Seconded to adopt Budget Order 2019-57. Further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
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 Those, John?
I'm looking at them on my screen, yeah.
Well, you might as well get your name in the minutes.
I move to adopt order
We didn't have a
2019-58.
vote on that.
Oh, yeah, we did we?
Yeah.
Okay, then,
Aye.
aye, passes. Okay,
I move to adopt order 2019-58.
Second?
moved and seconded to adopt budget order 2019-58. Further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
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 Aye, motion carries.
Move to adopt order number 2019-59.
Second?
Moved and seconded to adopt budget order 2019-59. Further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
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 Aye, motion carries.
Move to adopt order number 2019-61.
Second?
Moved and seconded to adopt budget order 2019-61. Further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
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 Aye, motion carries.
There are also,
Budget transfers.
yes, there are also two budget transfers. Summarize those for you. Budget Order 2019-60, General Fund, General County, requires a transfer of appropriations to appropriate funding not known at the adoption of the budget. This requires an increase in transfers out of $35,000 and a decrease in contingency of $35,000. And Budget Order 2019-62, General Fund, Board of Commissioners, requires a transfer of appropriations to appropriate funding not known at the adoption of the budget. This requires an increase in materials and services of $17,500 and a decrease in contingency of $17,500.
Okay. Is there any discussion? And
Go
we're
ahead,
ready for
John.
motion.
I make a motion to adopt budget order 2019-60.
Been moved to adopt budget order 2019-60 and seconded.
Second?
Further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
I move to adopt budget order 2019-62.
Second?
Moved and seconded to adopt budget order 2019-62. Further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
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 Aye, motion carries. Thank you, Robert.
You're welcome.
That concludes our business agenda this morning. Are there any commissioner reports?
I don't have a report, but I have a question. I think maybe we ought to chat about this. Is everybody at the meeting next Monday?
I believe so.
I think so.
We've had kind of a plethora of emergency expenditures in the last year, and I think we need to discuss whether that's an anomaly or something we need to talk about. Because what we have, Robert, the roof, the boiler, sidewalks, parking lot, and the snow removal. I mean, I don't know that happens every year, but I don't think we could withstand that too many times, could we?
It's stressful.
Yeah. I just think it'd be worth our
Smaller
time.
amount, I think, can still be stressful.
Well, I just think it'd be
These are large.
worth our time to discuss those, because
Yeah.
we maintain reserves for the purpose of addressing those, but we can't do that too many times.
Yeah, and I think we need to probably evaluate, first of all, these, once they're done for hopefully a good long period of time. But what else is there out there that we might be looking at that might come up and nip us? We can certainly have that discussion. Further?
I have, not on that, but I have one. NACO, National Association of Counties, has put out a new app for smartphones. It's called Test IT, and the IT is capitalized. And what it does basically is well, let me back up. There's a thought out there, mainly on the East Coast, that our country is 100% covered by broadband internet. As we in Umatilla County know that is not the case. Friend of mine, Mayor Spurgeon in City of Weston, is a champion of this to get broadband internet to the smaller cities. And one of the things that this app does is it tests your upload and download speed to your internet. And then it reports it back to the people so it'll show your location, and yes, you have the federal minimums of upload and download speeds, or you don't. And then once it shows, hey, there is a disparity between what should be and what we actually have, then hopefully we can get some funding to get some broadband internet to our more rural areas. I've already put it on my phone. It's interesting, and you go to places and sometimes it'll say there's zero internet, and I love doing that one. So,
Where?
A lot of different places.
Well, did you notice that I was at the presentation where the Washington Hilton was inadequate?
Yes. Just when I ran it, it was barely. It was barely.
They rolled it out in the Rural Action Caucus, I believe is where they did it. Everybody tried it, and our conference room at the Washington Hilton was below appropriate standards.
I did not know that.
I think the thing about this particular program that makes it unique is the fact that it reports back, so they're able to log and follow this.
Exactly.
Have a record of where the speeds are and where they're not, and hopefully that data will serve to build out more broadband.
Yeah. So, and the app is free. It's in the Google Play Store and Android, or the Apple, whatever the Apple one is. So, but it's free. It's Test IT is what it is. And look for the one that says Test IT NACO, because apparently there's a couple different ones.
Would there be some advantage to having that put on the county's website as a tool?
Well, there's a link to the website that I'm actually on. We can
I know,
put
but I'm thinking the general public has no knowledge of that link.
Well, that's what I mean. We could put the link to the
Yes.
website on the webpage, yeah. And then they could, from that link, it takes you right to the Android store or the Apple store.
Apparently doesn't take very long because the Secretary of Agriculture did it on the stage.
Yeah, no, it didn't take long at all. So,
I've tested the speed at home, but the difference is that doesn't report the data to anybody.
exactly. But with this app, it would.
Yeah.
So, that's all I have. So,
Thank you. Anything further? Then we stand adjourned. Thank you. Take care of yourself.
Mm-hmm.